This is Derrick Broze. This is Derrick Broze of the Conscious Resistance. I'm here in Standing Rock.
That man is wanted in 5 different countries: Chile, Argentina, Brazil.
We've been fighting a long time. We've all lost so very much. So many loved ones gone.
Don't you fucking tease that horse!
You are not alone. There are pockets of resistance all around the planet. We are at the brink. Above all, stay alive. You have no idea how important you are. If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
Hey everyone, this is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network. Tonight is August 26, 2024. This is the 140th episode of the Conscious Resistance Live. We're calling this the Unholy Union of Trump, RFK, Thiel-Musk, and of course, most importantly, what you can do about it. And that is what we're going to focus on tonight, obviously, as the title indicates. And I'm getting a comment from over on YouTube saying I'm the first person here, and it looks like there's already 46 thumbs down and no thumbs up. Let me check on that right now. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised because, as you guys know, there is a nice big cult surrounding these gentlemen, and not so many people in the so-called independent alternative media want to even talk about this or want to challenge these narratives. I don't see that many thumbs down at the moment. Maybe they will be there later, but right now I don't see them. Nevertheless, that is what we're going to focus on for tonight's episode. In case you're new here, because I know we always have new listeners, here's the format. I cover 1 to 2 top stories tonight, and we're going to go in depth in that. Obviously, the title of the show tells you the direction we're going to focus on, which will be covering some of my recent articles. And then we are also going to highlight a book from my shelf. I call that segment, What's Derrick Reading? And I share something that I've been reading, what I've been up to. And it's not really anything political or anything related. That's just me sharing some ideas and thoughts of what I'm interested in. And then finally, we are going to end with a music video from a conscious musician. That's how we do the show. So we bring you hard-hitting news analysis, an objective perspective, not falling into the left-right paradigm. And that includes Donald Trump. A lot of people think they're past the left-right paradigm, but they're still pushing Trump, and they really don't understand what's going on. So we go deeper than that. I stick to the facts and the things I can prove. And when I am going to speculate, as of course I will make that clear to you. So that's what you can expect from my show. Again, my name is Derrick Broze. I'm an independent journalist, documentary filmmaker. These are my books, some of my books right here next to me, How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State, which we'll talk more about right here. And this one, the Conscious Resistance Trilogy, which we'll talk more about. And yeah, so that's what we're going to be covering tonight. And as I mentioned, we'll be going over my latest articles. If you're just tuning in for the first time, we are live right now on Odyssey. We're live right now on YouTube. We're live on multiple Facebook pages, and we're live on Rockfin as well as Twitter. And I encourage you, if you're new, to follow, like, subscribe, all that stuff, and hang out, even if you don't like the title of this show, because as soon as I posted it on Facebook, I saw some people saying, well, I'm not listening because you're not worth listening to. But I guess they wanted to comment either way. So nevertheless, that's what we're going to focus on tonight. And I hope you guys will stick with me. First of all, I do want to say, if you haven't, comment saying I'm voting for Trump for Bitcoin. That's perfect, because we're going to be covering that as well tonight, how the Bitcoin community has fallen for Trump as well. I did an article on that a few weeks ago, so I look forward to debunking and smashing some sacred cows. But first of all, let's go ahead. My website is theconsciousresistance.com. As you can see, you can sign up for our email newsletter right there. I send out an email every week or every other week. For tonight's show, you can see I've already posted that. That's where all the show notes, everything that I'm going to be covering, I will list there once we wrap up. And by the way, guys, you might have seen that over the last couple of days, I've been doing some interviews after there was a brand new bombshell report relating to water fluoridation that you guys understand. If you've been following my work for a while now, you already know the deal. The government's been covering up this report relating to fluoride for 2 years now. But for a lot of people, it's brand new news. And I did get invited to speak on Redacted, so you can find that interview on our website. And then just the other day, I was on Vigilant News Network with Maria Z. And actually tomorrow I'm going to be on InfoWars talking about the Summit of the Future. Now, before people start freaking out, I just want to make it clear. As a journalist, I go on all kinds of platforms with people that I do not agree with on different topics, namely their Trump support. And that is because I think I want to get my message out as far and wide as possible. But don't mistake that for believing that I am 100% on board with what Redacted talks about with Clayton Morris and his wife, Natalie. I appreciate them. I'm grateful for them. They've boosted my signal, but we definitely don't align on everything. And the Trump support is a big one. But you can find all those recent reports as well as some new articles from new interviews from Anthony Samaroff, who's one of our contributors, on the website as well. So that's where you can pick up all of our content. And let me just rant for a moment before we get into the actual articles, because I know some of you are probably already frustrated. Thanks to everybody who's tuning in. Again, please share this. Please make sure everybody who's listening to tune in. Thanks for listening on the side, whatever you're doing. And thanks for the comments. I really do appreciate it. And, it's such an interesting mix of perspectives of people who find my work. Like we've got somebody who's like, I'm voting for Trump for Bitcoin, right? Hang out, Nico Guillermo. I hope you hang out because I'm going to try to burst your bubble, not in a mean way, but just point out to some facts. Maybe you won't really care if you're a Bitcoin maximalist. That's the problem with the maxis as well, is they're kind of like another cult. You got to be a carnivore. You got to support Bitcoin at all costs, even though Bilderbergers is getting involved and the big banks are getting involved. It's all good for Bitcoin as long as the number goes up. We're going to talk about that. And then we've got somebody else, Eden's Vision, who obviously doesn't really understand Bitcoin as well. No offense, but they're saying, I can't even afford Bitcoin. You can afford Bitcoin. You don't have to buy one Bitcoin at 60 whatever $1,000. You can buy $5 worth of Bitcoin. So that's a whole nother conversation. But nevertheless, we've got a wide range of audience here, and I appreciate all of you. And of course, thank you to the Erie Fairy for always being supportive, and thank you guys. And cool. Glad to hear you're not a maxi, Nick. Hang out. Maybe I'll give you some food for thought at the very least. Thank you, guys. So let's go ahead and jump into our first story of the night, though. This one is actually going to be an article that I will have coming out later this week for the Last American Vagabond. You may have seen it going around, or at least in the headlines, but maybe you didn't actually look into the article. States are beginning to adopt digital driver's license. Biden may supercharge the transition. A draft executive order viewed by Notice, which is this news outlet that I'd never heard of before, but they seem to be describing themselves as nonpartisan, objective media. I'm sure they would still call some of us conspiracy theories, but nevertheless, it seems like they're doing some good work. It says a draft executive order viewed by Notice shows how the Biden administration could reshape how Americans access government services and potentially behave online. Yep. And by the way, for all those who say, I never talk about Biden and Kamala, you're obsessed with Trump, you got Trump derangement syndrome. Here you go. Take a breath. The Biden administration is laying the groundwork for wider acceptance of digital identifications, like digital driver's licenses that you can show on your smartphone, a push that could fundamentally reshape how citizens access everything from public benefits to pornography online. So if you're worried about your porn, you want to tune in. A draft of a forthcoming executive order viewed by Notice pushes federal and state governments to speed adoption of smartphone-based mobile driver's licenses and ID options more widely, stating, it is the policy of the executive branch to strongly encourage the use of digital identity documents. Let's just pause right there for a moment. Why would the government, whether it's under Joe Biden or Donald Trump, want to herd you further into the digital identity document area? Let's go back maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago to something called COVID 1984. You guys remember those things that originally were called immunity passports, and then later on they became known as vax passports? You guys remember that? You remember in certain parts of the world where you couldn't fly, you couldn't travel, you couldn't work, you couldn't get in certain businesses without showing your permission slip. And in some places like Italy, it was so crazy that they couldn't even go on walks without a permission slip to walk their dog 500 feet from their house, right? So what do you think is going to happen if these things come in the form of digital identities? And what was the phrase there they said? Let me go back to it. They said, it is the policy of the executive branch to strongly encourage the use of digital identity documents. Why would they want that? I mean, it seems pretty obvious to me. They want control over, they want to know everywhere and everything you do. Such documents could be submitted digitally and in combination with biometric scans like facial recognition, and could help better verify identity online. This draft executive order, if implemented, would ostensibly address a growing problem. The governments have lost billions of, here they go, here's the sob story. Governments have lost billions of dollars in fraudulent claims to benefit programs using forged identification cards. And look, like if there's some old lady or some person that's getting scammed out of their social security check by scammers, Of course, that's not a good thing. I'm not saying I support that, but it's obvious that they go for cases like that. We care about the people being scammed. So in order to fix that, guys, we've got this beautiful digital identity system, which will make sure that there's never fraud again, right? I'm sure that's how it's going to work out. This would also mandate federal agencies to adopt a single government-run identity system, which is called login.gov. So that might be the website where in the future, the U.S. citizens, at least the compliant ones, are expected to go register and scan their face if they want to do anything. As a gateway to federal websites and to offer that system to state and local governments for integration. Already, 13 states have rolled out some kind of mobile driver's license programs, and more are working towards implementing a digital ID. Where have we heard about mobile driver's license? Let me just go over here to our favorite website, The Last American Vagabond, where I am a contributor and Ryan Christian is the founder. Let's just search mobile driver's licenses and see what comes up. See if anybody out there in the independent media has been warning about this or writing about this. I don't know. Maybe somebody has. Let's just give it a look. Oh, there's an article from 2023. Who's behind the push for digital driver's license in the U.S. and Mexico? Written by me. Exploring the digital ID as a human rights scam back in May 2022. We could go on, but you guys get the point. I've been reporting on this push for what they call mobile driver's licenses or digital driver's licenses. And I wrote about in this article how this company, I believe it's the Fuel. Let me see. I can't remember their name off the top of my head. This might be a separate article. But the point is I've been reporting on this for a while, so it's probably not news to those of you who've been paying attention, but for the average person it is. The Thales Group, that's what it is. The Thales Group's fingerprints are all over digital identity programs. And in this article, I'll put this in the show notes, but who's behind the push for digital driver's licenses in the US and Mexico was warning about this more than a year ago. And boom, now we're getting a draft executive order showing that the Biden administration is considering an executive order to mandate states to start implementing mobile driver's licenses or digital driver's license. It does acknowledge that privacy activists and civil libertarians of both parties have raised concerns that digital IDs could lead to government overreach and surveillance. Ultimately, an order could have far-reaching consequences for how Americans prove who they say they are on the web when they apply for benefits, file their taxes, or even access online websites and services. So remember that, because as we get into the conversation about RFK and Musk and Trump and Peter Thiel, I'm going to bring it back to, and don't forget Eric Schmidt. We're going to talk about how Eric Schmidt and others are pushing for this idea of an ID to get on the internet itself. So it's not just mobile driver's license. Like that might be where it starts, but ultimately, you guys know this is a digital ID that is going to be used for all kinds of things. This will be your internet access. You won't be able to get on the internet eventually unless you know alternative methods, which is an important thing we need to be exploring. If you don't have this ID, you won't be able to work. You won't be able to get your Social Security benefits, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, like for example, Jeff Noble says, I use it to check on my Social Security issues. I'm guessing you're talking about login.gov. So they've already got some people using this as well, and it's going to expand as we go further. So Joe Biden first promised an executive order in 2022 in the State of Union, but it has been stuck in a bureaucratic turf war over what it should include. 4 people familiar with the matter said that the text of the executive order had been finalized, but that the Biden administration was debating when to roll it out. We could expect them, since Biden's already a lame duck and Kamala or Trump, somebody else, some other puppets coming in, and there's only September, October, November, December, 4 months left before Biden leaves. I guarantee you they're going to sneak this in there at some point. It might be one of the last executive orders he does. And then people will be like, oh my God, Biden did the digital IDs. And then guess what? If Trump comes in there, he'll continue to expand them. No, he won't overturn it, because that's not how this team sport politics works. One team does it, the other side complains about it, and then they come along and they expand it, or at the very least, they don't do anything about it. And this just allows people to keep fighting over the puppets and not realizing that they are both serving the same agenda. One person obtained what they said was the final text of the order from a federal agency this week and provided it to notice. A second person confirmed that many of the provisions matched a summary that had circulated among stakeholders within recent months, and that the draft provided to notice incorporated some changes sought by the agency and industry. And a White House spokesperson said, nothing is final until it's signed by the president. So That's kind of the point. One more paragraph here. It says billions of dollars in corporate and government money are tied up in how to create systems that will allow people to verify who they are online and to submit those credentials to both private and public run websites for verification, all while addressing privacy and civil liberty concerns about moving identity documents onto smartphones. So it's, and the article goes on further from there, but the point is that's the latest thing is this outlet, which is a brand new outlet, right? Maybe they don't have the track record where we should say that they're going to be 100% right, but I don't think they would be just putting it out there and claiming that they had access to this draft report without actually having access to it. They could be making it up. They could be lying. So let's take it with a grain of salt, but this seems to be legit. And in fact, since I'm working on this article, I did a little research to find out, has the Biden administration previously talked about this? And I found this article on nextgov.com. White House stalls on digital identity mandate despite billions in fraud. You see that again, like the call is like, this is going to prevent fraud. It's going to prevent grandma from getting ripped off. And all those scammers are out there with their fake cryptos. And look, I get it, dude. Like I have people impersonating me on Telegram and all the other platforms. I have followers of mine who have been scammed, unfortunately, because people will impersonate me. They'll create a fake account and they'll reach out and they say, hey, are you preparing for the coming collapse? And the people's like, yeah. Oh, is this Derrick? Awesome. Great to hear from you. And they'll say, awesome. If you really want to be prepared for the coming collapse, I need you to move your money into the quantum financial system. And then they scam people. Like, I get it. I get that there are scammers out there and that this is a real issue. Fraud is a problem. But if you actually trust that the idea that the government is going to do this and not scam you and defraud you in other ways, then you're not really paying attention, my friend. So just a little more backup. This is March 6th. So again, we just got this draft report from Notice. That's brand new. But then we've also got this March 6th report from NextGov saying President Biden previewed an executive order in his 2020 State of Union. As Biden gears up for his 2024 address, the order still hasn't been released. So this is kind of complaining, saying 2 years after he teased this executive order, such an order hasn't materialized, leaving stakeholders frustrated at the lack of action to address vulnerabilities and prevent fraudsters from siphoning off government money. And then they go on to quote some people. The order, as it was previewed 2 years ago, was said to be focused on preventing fraud in government benefit programs. The Government Accountability Office said that up to $135 billion in unemployment insurance went to bad actors during the pandemic. So you can see the narrative that they're hyping up here. And I just wanted to provide a little more evidence. I think this is factual, and not only just because of this story about the Biden executive order, but again, if you've been following my work, I've focused a lot on digital identities over the years. In fact, my book, How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State, right here, was highly focused on this. I've been talking about the concerns with digital identities for several years now, for many years now. And in this book, which you can download for free at theconsciousresistance.com/how-to, I talk about, look, you may have been concerned about vaccine passports, but it's not going away, my friends. It's going to come in the form of carbon credit schemes, or you got to have your carbon wallet to see if you've farted too much this week, or you ate too much meat, or whatever, or if you've drove too much. That's what this is all about. It might come in the form of a digital ID for your driver's license. It might come in the form of a digital ID to prevent fraud in government programs. It might come in the form of, oh, you know what? The video games are rolling out this really cool feature that all you have to do is scan your face and scan your eyes, and then you get to import your face onto your favorite character on the video games. As I wrote in this book, they're going to sell it to the people through entertainment, through convenience. Like, as I talked about a couple of weeks ago, how they're talking about making airports touch-free, and you can just walk through the airport and it scans your face and it, automatically knows who you are. And then there'll be no bad people in the airport. No terrorists ever will be in the airport again, because we'll know who everybody is and we'll know everybody was intended to be there. Of course, all that involves giving up your privacy and your liberty, but pay no attention to that. Pay no mind to that. At least they would like you to do. So, and my book, How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State, I do talk about solutions. So for those that are like, okay, Derrick, I can't tell you guys, as we'll talk more in the next story, how many times over the last week I've been told I'm black-pilled, I'm just being negative. And any of you who know my work, you know that if anything, besides my journalism, 90% of my work, my books, my presentations are focused on solutions. But people don't want to hear it if the solutions don't involve sucking at the teat of the government or being a bootlicker for Donald Trump or for Kamala Harris or for RFK. They think that if you say that that's not the answer, then you're saying there's no solutions. And nothing could be further from the truth. So my point is, this has been going on for a while now, guys. It's going to increase. I'm going to continue to write about it. I'm going to continue to warn about it. And you better believe I'm not going to accept the digital ID. What does that mean though? Let's talk about that. Again, this goes back to my book. If you are a kind of person that I'm not going to accept a digital ID. Like, for example, if you were the kind of person that knew you weren't going to take the COVID shot, you had to deal with all kinds of circumstances. You had to deal with probably losing friends and family, maybe getting fired from your job, or, maybe just not being able to travel, like things like that. But those of us who thought ahead and who knew this was coming, we tried to kind of be ready to play the game. You have to be adaptable, my friends. But if you're the kind of person that you got a lot of student loan debt and you got a lot of credit card debt and your money's in the bank and you got mortgage, and I understand these are adult things that people in our world, for whatever reason, accept as normal. The idea that I would go into debt and put my life on hold for 30 years. I don't know. Anyways, I don't want to get into that. But the point is, so many people are stuck in situations that they're like, I hear you, Derrick, but I don't know what else to do. The best thing I can do is hope that Trump, if he saves the day, then I won't have to change my own life. I won't have to change my own habits. I won't have to change my behavior. Somebody else will do it for me. But I'm sorry, my friends, and I guess maybe this is why some of you think I'm negative, but that's not going to happen. They're not going to save you. QAnon's not going to save you. RFK is not going to save you. Musk's not going to save you. I'm getting ahead of myself because this is really the next story we're going to get into. But the point stands. They're not going to save you from these digital ID programs. They can talk a big game all they want, and maybe they'll even delay it a little further to keep you believing in the illusion. But at the end of the day, no, my friend, it is not communism that we are fighting. So many people, this guy is saying, say no to communism. Sure, say no to communism. Communism is shit, especially if it's not done voluntarily and it involves giving up private property and forcing people to give up their religion and all kinds of horrible things that communists have done. But that's not what we're fighting. That's what the illusion wants you to believe. Meanwhile, the left is like, if Trump gets in office, it's going to be fascism. And you're over here believing that the Democrats are communists. Meanwhile, real communists, real leftists, whether you agree with them or not, are like, the Democrats aren't communists. They're more right-wing than anything. And that's the reality. The left and right, it's so fucking combobulated. And most people are not educated about political philosophy. So there's something I don't like. They must be communists. Or there's something I don't like. They must be fascist. They're not using these terms in the historical context or really with any deeper understanding. It's just like, what you mean to say is, I don't like the other side. They're doing bad things. But no, you're not fighting communism. You're not fighting fascism. Not to say that they won't have similarities or elements. What you are fighting is technocracy, not technology, because I noticed some people think when I say technocracy, I'm talking about technology. No, technocracy. Let me whip out the book again. Technocratic state, or what they called it, the technate. Go back to Zbigniew Brzezinski. He's now dead, but you should know him. Zbigniew Brzezinski, puppet of the deep state of the New World Order. He wrote it called America Between Two Ages, the Technotronic Era. I wrote about it in this book. I quoted from him directly. They believe in a world with no individual liberty, with a technate king at the top. And this means no politics, no businessmen, no voting, which in some ways, no voting is better, but at least people have this illusion that their voice matters. In their world, you're too stupid to know what's good for you. So we need the technocratic elite, the scientific dictatorship to be in charge. That's what it ultimately comes down to, my friends. So I'll be doing deeper videos and probably an article on this in the future. I encourage people to go look at my interviews on theconsciousresistance.com about Patrick Wood. I encourage you to learn about the work of Anthony Sutton. When he showed in his research, he's now long gone and deceased, but he showed that who funded the communists in Russia? The banking class. You know who funded Hitler in Germany? The banker class. The same people, the predator class, the bankers and the technocrats. They've been funding both these movements. So sure, they'll fund communist movements. They'll also fund capitalist movements. They'll fund fascist movements if it helps them. They don't give a shit. These things are just tools for them to get to the goal that they want. That's what it really comes down to. So I hate to go on like a little rant here, but the point is that so many people, they don't even know what they're fighting because they got you so freaking confused and lost. You're like, no, I'm fighting against the communists and Trump speaking about communism and Marxism, when in reality, these people are not really Marxists. Like, go ask a Marxist philosopher and they'll say those people are freaking capitalists, or they're right-wing at best. But Americans especially, and I think the world wide over, people are so freaking confused. They don't know what to call it. So at the very least, just say, I don't like what they're doing. That would be more accurate instead of calling them communist or fascist. Anyway, so let's go ahead and take a quick momentary break, and we're going to come back and we're going to dive deep And this is when I need you to hold on to your hats. If you get triggered easy, if you've made it this far, Trump supporters, please hang with us. I know I can be rude sometimes. I know I can be a dick. I'm not a perfect human. I strive to be compassionate and spiritual and centered. But I also believe in blunt compassion. And sometimes that means tell you you're fucking wrong, you're delusional, and you're fallen prey to a trap. And I'm sorry, maybe that's not the best approach sometimes, but I've also had people reach out to me and say, Derrick, because of you and your work, you helped shake me from my slumber. You helped me see that I was falling for another puppet. I get these comments on my my websites and on my channels where people will say that. They'll come back and say, hey, Derrick, thank you for telling me this. Thank you for being real about it. It took me a while, but now I finally see what's going on. And that's not to say that I've got all the answers or anything like that. I'm just saying, hang on to your boots, hang on to your hats, because if I'm a little rude for a moment, or if I say something that's not to your liking, I invite you to still stick it out and to hang out. Now, I want to show you one thing real quick, if I can. Okay, I guess I'm not going to be able to real quick. Well, let me just give me just a moment, because I'm talking about my book, and I want to let you guys know that in case you didn't know, at theconsciousresistance.com/how-to, not only can you download my book for free, you can purchase it. It's available in Spanish, English, German, and French, and a Japanese version will be coming out later next year, and we're working on a Korean version as well. But if you go to my YouTube channel, The Conscious Resistance, the bigger YouTube channel, I posted the audiobook a couple weeks ago. And I just want to show you an example. This is not toot my own horn. I guess it is, but I'm just trying to show you guys that people are actually getting value out of my work and out of this book. So I just got a comment earlier today on the audiobook on YouTube. Where has this been all my life? Fantastic information. It brings all the dots together. Somebody else, this is a great book. Thanks, Derrick. Non-participation is the most effective resistance. So thank you for posting this. Just check it out. I only share it because I do think it is an effective solution. Not to say I've got all the solutions and Derrick Broze is the only one that knows what's going on, but I do have some solutions, and they're better than politics. They're better than just sitting around waiting to trust liars and criminals and thieves to save you. So we'll get into more on that in just a moment. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Are you using your phone, or is it using you? Rise above mass surveillance and discover a phone that protects your privacy and communications.
Above Phone does everything your old phone does, without tracking you, while giving you complete control over your phone and apps. We are better than big tech. It works with any cell service. No forced logins, no advertising or tracking. Download apps privately. Control your phone and its apps with secure hardware. Introducing Above Suite. Protects your internet traffic. Private email on any device. Video call with friends privately. Encrypted chat, calls, and internet phone. Protect your searches and get results. Don't worry if you're new. Every phone includes a free 45-minute live call. You also get free email and chat support, free guides, and video courses. We can take back our technology. We're here to help with tools and education. You have the power.
Rise above with Above Phone.
AbovePhone.com.
So yes, the Above Phone, abovephone.com. I think if you go to abovephone.com/bros or /TCRN, or just go to theconsciousresistance.com and you can check out we have an ad there. We are supported through ads like that. So I don't even use a smartphone, but my partner Miriam uses the Above Phone. It's amazing. It's de-Googled. It's got all sorts of decentralized privacy versions of everything you're doing. No Google Maps, no Apple Maps, alternative versions, much better. A slight learning curve, but I encourage you to check it out. And they have various price models. I don't know all the different price points, but I know this. If you're out there using a smartphone and you're going to go spend a few $100s, or some of you are spending thousands of dollars on new phones, why not invest in yourself and get a phone that is at least going to be more private? Nobody's claiming that it has, that it's going to completely keep you private, especially if you download Facebook or Instagram and put that on there. But at the very least, you're starting with a container that's going to give you more privacy than you do with the average phone. So check it out. And I appreciate everybody checking out the the audiobook of the How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State. It's something that I'm very grateful for. We worked hard on that. A buddy of mine recorded the audio. It's not me reading it. I know some of you wanted me to read it, but I don't have the time right now. But it's well worth to listen to. It's give you solutions and ideas. And we're going to talk more about those solutions in just a moment. But let's go ahead and get into it. Let's get into this unholy union of Trump, RFK, Thiel, and Musk. And if you saw the picture that I started out with, it's the picture of RFK on stage with Trump, right? And I guess that's the big news. That Friday afternoon, a couple of days ago, RFK announced that he was suspending his campaign in battleground states. He's going to keep himself on the various ballots in other states. But ultimately, let's be real. He's quitting his campaign. He's actively said he's going to go out and campaign for Trump. So I don't know how you still... He's trying to like have it both ways and tell his supporters, I'm not a sellout. I'm not giving up. You can still vote for me in these other states. But in the battleground states where it allegedly matters, you should vote for Trump instead. So yeah, once again, another Pied Piper, another person saying they're going to have a revolution like Bernie and then go and endorse Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, or they're going to defeat the two-party system. And then in the end, they just go and give all their voters and all the money and all the millions of dollars people put into this freaking dude, and they just give it to the machine, right? It's sad to see, but it's not that surprising. I've kind of expected something like that to happen, and I'm not even saying this. You guys know me. I don't vote. I'm not going to vote for Kamala or Harris or Kamala Harris or Biden or Trump or RFK or anybody. Like I abstain from playing slave games because I know that I can vote every day with my actions and have a much more impact on my own life and my local community's impact. But still, the reason I've been going off crazy on this weekend, and honestly have been quite stressed out to see how many people have been celebrating it. It's been worse than the post-assassination attempt. Like post-assassination attempts, like we talked about when it happened, there's this like deification of Trump. Oh my God, he's protected by God, and freaking people wearing patches on their ears and stupid shit like that. I thought we saw crazy then. But then now that Trump and RFK are coming together, you can see it all across the mainstream alternative media, people celebrating, it's happening, we're winning, we're finally going to defeat the deep state, the health freedom movement is aligning with MAGA, and it's all bullshit, friends. It's all garbage. If you've paid attention here, you know why. I'll get you some more details in just a moment, but the point is, that's the big news. That's what a lot of people are celebrating. Thankfully, there are a few people out there with their heads on straight, and I'll start off by telling you this before we get into the details here. Myself, Whitney Webb, and Ryan Christian of Last American Vagabond, I'm not going to give you all the details, but right now we've been having some serious conversations today because all of us can see the insanity that's happening. We are forming an alliance of true independent media who have been correct on COVID-19 84, who have been correct on the Israel genocide in Gaza, and who still see through the two-party lie. Like, for example, you guys saw that panel that I put together a couple of weeks ago with James Corbett, Aaron and Melissa of TruthStream Media, Josh Segerson of World Alternative Media, Dan Dix of Press for Truth, and of course, James Corbett, and Ryan Christian was there as well. Whitney was supposed to be there. She couldn't make it, but it's those folks and some more that we're going to be reaching out to. You'll probably hear about it very soon. You might not even hear much about it publicly, but you'll definitely start seeing us collaborate more. We're going to collaborate on investigations. We're going to collaborate on boosting each other's content, because the rest of the garbage, fake alternative media, and even people who genuinely believe what they're doing is real, right? People who they get the message from Trump, they get the message from RFK, and then they run onto their channels and platforms. Some who have millions of followers, and they just, celebrate, and they're pushing their audiences in this way. And I've seen it. I'm sure you guys have seen it in the comments out there, how many people are buying into this narrative. It's just so freaking crazy to me. So we are putting together an alliance of true independent media. Again, people who were right from the beginning on COVID-19 84, the Israeli genocide, and the seeing through the two-party illusion. So you stay tuned for that. There will be some big things coming, and we're going to spend September and October trying to get as much information out as possible, trying to counter as many narratives as possible. We even talked about setting up debates with some of these other people who are out there spreading garbage and trying to act like both sides are not being funded by the Zionists and the Bilderberg Group. So, we're kind of like, it's time, red alert, guys. Like, I don't know about you, but I definitely, as I said earlier, I spent way too much time debating people on the internet this weekend. And I do that because I know that there are people out there who are still reachable. sometimes people will be like, Derrick, you're wasting your time. And sometimes I am wasting my time. And like I said, it takes me to a place where I end up getting rude. I get frustrated and I have to step back. But ultimately, it's honestly because I give a shit and because I care. And maybe that's stupid. Maybe that's silly. Maybe that's naive. I'm not saying it's my job to save the world or anything like that. But I think that's those of us who are called to become journalists and content creators. We're not making a lot of money. We're not getting rich. Some people are out there, and not to say there's anything wrong with getting rich or making money. I definitely want to make more money than I am now, but most of us are not in it for that. We're in it just because we're passionate about this. We care. We want to understand the world better, and we want to help other people wake up and shake their chains off, right? So when I see this craziness, this hysteria surrounding Trump and RFK, and I see so many good people being led astray, as well as other people that I thought had some fucking common sense and had some principles falling for it. It's mind-boggling. I have to sit back. I do have to do a little prayer. I have to do a little meditation and centering myself and like, okay, I know this is a spiritual war. I know that the physical and the spiritual matter. That's what the conscious resistance is all about. And I can't let myself get dragged down with this, but I'm also not going to be silent. I'm also not going to ignore that they are co-opting the true freedom movement, and they're trying to pull as many people as possible to make it think that, quote unquote, we won. If Trump gets in office, we won. We defeated the communists. We defeated the deep state. And that's not the reality. The reality is that it is much easier for the predator class to sell their technocratic agenda if Trump wins. Because as we already see right now, so many people make excuses for Trump. I've posted this on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere else in the last couple of days. Just giving an example, saying like, we've never seen this before. If I was to point out the crimes of George H.W. Bush, nobody's going to tell me you've got Bush derangement syndrome. If I was to point out the crimes of Clinton, nobody's going to say I've got Clinton derangement syndrome, and on with Obama, with baby Bush, and with Biden. The only person who's got that kind of cult around them is Trump. And look, I'll give it to you. Yes, partly that is because the media has attacked him for bullshit reasons like Russia. And, okay, he had sex with a porn star or whatever. And that is all by design. They attack him for garbage, for things that they know are false or just they don't even really matter. But then they ignore the fact that he's a Zionist. They ignore all the actual things he's done that have caused harm and the corruption. And then what happens is the people who have a little bit of a brain, they're like, wow, I don't understand. Like, they're saying all these things about Trump and it doesn't really turn out to be true. Maybe I was wrong about Trump. And you're hearing this a lot from the mainstream alternative media, people who are like, oh, I used to hear that Trump was a racist. And then I looked into him and now, I realize he's actually saying good things. It's all bullshit. They attack him over garbage. And then people react and they're like, oh my God, I can't trust the corporate media anymore. They're attacking Trump. That must mean he's a good guy. It's really this most simple, basic logic that is, I can't even believe adults fall for it, but it's the classic problem, reaction, solution. So then they attack him based on garbage. People notice that it's garbage, and then they react and say, well, if they're attacking him, if all the right people hate him, then he must be on my side. And then, of course, he plays that up, and then they go after him for court shit. By the way, did you notice all that court stuff is kind of disappeared now, that nobody's talking about putting Trump in jail? It's like that was all designed to build up the narrative. They're coming after him. They're coming after him. And obviously you have this alleged assassination attempt, which I still don't claim to know exactly what happened, but I definitely know that if the real deep state, the predator class wanted Trump dead, he'd be fucking dead right now, okay? You better believe that. There's no, it's not that we made a mistake and somehow we missed him. There's a lot more going on than that none of us really understand. The point is this. This is what I refer to as the great inversion. And if you've been paying attention to my work recently, or if you've gone to theconsciousresistance.com, you search the great inversion, you can read my essay about that. I encourage you to do that. That is what we are witnessing. We are witnessing this faux libertarianism that they're claiming with Peter Thiel and others, the libertarians and the health freedom movement and the old school liberals. They're coming into Trump's corner. You got Brett Weinstein, you got Jimmy Dore, you got all these different people now embracing Trump because they realize the left is so bad. And again, this goes back to the same thing that I talked about. The left is bad. They're freaking pushing transgender surgeries for kids. They're wanting censorship. They've totally lost the plot. And the average person can see that. And they're like, I don't know, man. Like, those Democrats sure seem crazy. Like, I thought I was a Democrat, but now I don't think I align with those people. So the crazier they get, people start looking for an alternative. And what is there? Trump. Oh, well, look, he's calling them out. He's calling out the communists and the transgender and this and that. And he pays just enough lip service to certain things. Like, he'll mention 9/11 every now and then, or he'll mention the Federal Reserve or something like that. Just enough that people it checks off their little boxes. Or as I'm about to talk about in a moment, he goes to the Bitcoin community, he goes to the libertarian community, and he says all the things that they want to hear. And bit by bit, they're bringing in all these pieces to build a faux populist movement. They've got the crypto community, the libertarians, the health freedom movement, the Republicans, the MAGA movement. It's the real uniparty. We're defeating the other uniparty for our own uniparty. And that is essentially my thesis. And it's not just me making shit up. There are facts to back this up. So let's get into some of those facts. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you. Absolutely, Tim Pool is a simp for Trump. Luke Rakowski, that whole lot, they've lost their fucking minds. And whatever good work people like Luke used to do, they've totally lost it now. So I wrote this article. We're going to go over 3 articles tonight. These are basically a series. I'm not including them as like a series like I usually do, but in my mind, they sort of build off each other. So the first one is this article I wrote on August 1st called The Co-opting of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Nashville, Peter Thiel, Donald Trump, and Rumble. As you guys know, I was in Nashville with Ryan. We went to the Bitcoin Nashville conference, and I had quite an experience, and I wrote this article about it. My second article I just wrote last week called, not that one, this one called What Role Will Eric Schmidt play in election 2024. Eric Schmidt is, of course, the former CEO of Google. This builds off the previous one about Peter Thiel. And then my most recent one that just published last week, America's Frontier Fund, the venture capital firm with ties to Peter Thiel and Eric Schmidt. Those are going to be the 3 pieces of the puzzle we're going to go into. And then I've also got some fun pictures here. Like, you guys can't fully see this one. Let me see if I zoom out. This is Elon and Donald Trump and RFK repping their crew. Who's that? That they got Israeli flags at the bottom, right? Oh, I'm sorry. Is that anti-Semitic to call them out for being Zionist and being funded by the Israeli lobby? No, it's not. And then here's another one. David Icke tweeted, they all show their true colors, blue and white in the end. Kennedy slavishly supports a country whose leader, Netanyahu, brags about turning the Israeli population into a lab for Pfizer. This is the same Kennedy who ran a campaign against the COVID jab, its content, its imposition, and consequences. It would seem like a colossal contradiction, but then Israel is a law unto itself to which they all must pay homage. And this was last year or so, whenever the media started attacking RFK, claiming that he was anti-Semitic. And then he went on this huge apology tour with this freaking Rabbi Shmuley, I think is his name, huge Zionist. And, he basically had to like go do his penance and say, oh, I'm so sorry. Please don't cancel me. And, he continues to stay silent about the massacre of children. And not to mention, guys, I'll tell you how sick it was for me. I got some shit from people online for saying this, but if you subscribe to Children's Health Defense, or even if you just watch their website, they had this big headline, breaking news, RFK, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. partners with Donald Trump to save millions of children. And okay, maybe they're just a journalist outlet reporting the news and they were quoting him, but come on, you literally claim that your job is to defend children. And you're going to go ahead and say that the 2 men, both of them who are supported by Zionists and who are silent essentially about what Israel's doing, and not just silent, but promoting it and supportive of it, that those men are going to save millions of children. Even if they continue with their garbage that Bobby talked about of like, we're going to fight all these different health causes. Sure. Let's imagine that Trump isn't a liar for 1 second, and he does appoint RFK to the position he claimed. And then he gets in there. And, people have told me, well, you're against fluoride. Well, putting Bobby in the health department with Trump is the best way to stop it. Sure, that could be true. But even if they did accomplish that, and even if they do free Ross Ulbricht, which is a cause I care deeply about that Trump has claimed to do, it will be on the backs of dead Palestinians. It will be on the backs of dead Palestinian children, okay? And I don't want it that way. I want Ross to be free. I know Ross's family, and I pray for his family, and God, I would be grateful if he gets out. And sure, I would love it if they got rid of fluoride and if they did some good things to try to fix the food supply. But what else would they be doing? They'd probably be, or not probably, we know the same agendas would advance like they did under Trump's first term. Who do you think expanded the rapid advancement of 5G? Donald Trump. And 5G is the backbone, along with 6G, to the smart city, smart grid surveillance state. And there's so many other examples of that Trump supporters continue to ignore. But let's look at this article here. The co-opting of Bitcoin Nashville, and et cetera, et cetera. So I won't rehash this because I've already done a whole nother video that you can find on the website. But the main points I want to make here is that Bitcoin has been taken away from the original vision, which was supposed to be digital cash and something that could help you defeat the central banks and defeat the government and not have to pay taxes, to now it's something that, well, as long as the number goes up, then that's good. So who cares if BlackRock gets involved? Who cares if Peter Thiel's jumping in? Who cares if people associated with Jeffrey Epstein are getting involved? As long as the number keeps going up, right? That's all that matters. And Whitney Webb and Mark Godwin have been doing some great work on this as well. But Trump comes to the Bitcoin National Conference as well as RFK, and they give this big ass speech and they talk about how, they're going to become the first Bitcoin president. And what I pointed out here is that this has been building for months now. Some of the allegedly right-wing leaning big tech bros, like members of the PayPal mafia, like David Sachs, they have been supporting Trump. David Sachs, he held a fundraiser for Trump in San Francisco back in June. He raised $12 million for Trump. David Sachs is also connected to other companies like LinkedIn, Tesla, Palantir Technologies, YouTube, Yelp, etc. And then you also had other investors like the Winklevoss twins, who are founder of the crypto exchange Gemini. Another person, Joe Lonsdale, who's also a co-founder of Palantir, he donated $1 million to the America PAC in support of a second Trump administration. We've also got other people who are lesser known but still involved in this, like Sean McGuire of the VC firm Sequoia Capital, Ken Howry of the Founders Fund, which is also connected to Peter Thiel, giving $1 million. Again, Howry co-founded the Founders Fund with Peter Thiel, and Peter Thiel is connected to the PayPal mafia. Of course, he's also the founder of Palantir. Palantir made their money from Incutel, which is the CIA's venture capital firm, and Peter Thiel is the one who funded J.D. Vance's Senate victory when he first won in the Senate in Ohio. And then now, of course, he's running for president. And we know that Peter Thiel supported Donald Trump in 2016. So already we're showing some slimy connections between the people who are going all in on Trump and who are also connected to the crypto community. Now, I want to make it clear that doesn't mean that the underlying technology of blockchain and of cryptocurrency is flawed. I know some of you disagree and you think it's all NSA technology, even though you have no evidence. You just like to say it. But the point is, people like me have been avoiding talking to the government and banks for more than a decade using this technology. That doesn't mean it's going to last forever, and I've never claimed that. But the people who are getting involved in it, they absolutely do not care. They just want it to be an investment that people put in like gold, and that's what they're teaching people. Bitcoin's not a currency. Crypto's not a currency. It's just all about holding it like digital gold. Don't worry about actually trying to defeat the Federal Reserve System by getting off the dollar. Just hold Bitcoin or other current cryptos like an investment, and hold on to stable coins, which are backed by BlackRock and others and Larry Fink, right? This is a game they're running. So again, J.D. Vance, he was a 39-year-old senator from Ohio. He was in attendance at this fundraiser for Trump back in June. So even before he got picked, he was already with these people. Elon Musk also recently encouraged Trump to pick Vance. And a few weeks later, that's exactly what Trump did at the RNC. So J.D. Vance claims that after he heard Peter Thiel gave a speech at Yale in 2011, he was so inspired that he had to get into the big tech firms. And he went on to found a biotech company called Circuit Therapeutics. And he was told that this was, the New York Times said that this was a, quote, favor to Peter. And then at the same time, J.D. Vance, who Trump's VP picked, he also went on to found something called Narya Capital. And guess who backed that? Google's Eric Schmidt and Peter Thiel. So Trump's VP pick started a venture capital firm, which was backed by Google's Eric Schmidt and Peter Thiel. And guess what? Eric was a Bilderberg steering committee member. So just if you look at Donald Trump's VP alone, it's clear that the same people who we've been all told, and most of us who've been awake for a long time, we realize the power of the Bilderberg Group, this secretive group that remained secret until just the last 10 years when they were forced to kind of make it a little bit public. Now they have a website. They release a very vague list of the topics they talk about. But generally speaking, we still don't know what they're doing. But they are made up of media, politicians, academics, all kinds of think tanks and stuff like that. This is at least the public face, like the World Economic Forum, of the power center. They are not the true power, but they represent the interest of the actual power behind the scenes. Because I'm sorry, my friends, but you've been led astray if you think the deep state just means the Democrats. That's a whole nother psyop that they pulled on people, getting people to think that the deep state is just the left wing. It's just the communists, the Democrats, right? That's more freaking garbage. So let's go on. Let's continue on to this. So again, Peter Thiel, Eric Schmidt, steering committee members of the Bilderberg Group. Peter Thiel gave $15 million to Vance's campaign. He also contributed another $1 million. David Sachs did, of the PayPal Mafia, to JD Vance. So you've got PayPal Mafia. You got all these slimy motherfuckers up in here funding JD Vance's investment and helping him get into office. And then, of course, steering him right to Trump as the VP pick. Is that not worrisome? Like, I just want to pause there for a moment, because maybe I'm just crazy, and maybe I'm just shouting into a freaking, I'm shouting at myself at the wall, and I'm just wasting my time. But let's just take a brief poll here. I'd like to hear your thoughts, whatever platform you're watching on. 10 years ago, did it feel like there was a lot more people who were aware that the Bilderberg Group was a problem? Like, I actually did a video that you can find on theconsciousresistance.com called "The Silence from InfoWars is Deafening." And this is because when Trump first got elected, immediately Trump started picking swamp creatures, people from Goldman Sachs. He picked the former governor of Texas, Rick Perry, which is where I'm originally from. Rick Perry was also an attendee of the Bilderberg Group. And you can go back and find articles from InfoWars back in 2011 calling that out and saying, oh, Texas governor going to the Bilderberg Group, he's a traitor. But then when Trump picked him to be his energy secretary, nothing, not a fucking article, not a peep from InfoWars about that fact. I mean, I really do think that the Trump deception, like the Obama deception before it, broke so many people's brains. But the difference is that nobody in the freedom movement, for the most part, I'd say maybe a tiny percent, fell for Obama and thought that Obama was going to be a hero. Maybe the first year, the first time, some people fell for it. But these days, there's no freedom movement people who are falling for Kamala. They're falling for Trump. That's why I focus on him so much, because people are like, oh, let me hear you talk about the left, Derrick, or you got Trump derangement syndrome. Well, the reason I do have a focus on him for the moment is because the fucking selection's going on, and so many of you are brainwashed and you think that these things don't matter. So tell me, do you guys think that more people were aware of the Bilderberg Group 10 years ago? Because now when I tell people, they just brush it off. They just act like that's not a thing. That's not a red flag. Or they're like, okay, well, Zionists, they're all Zionists. What does it really matter? So I guess I'll just choose the lesser evil. And that whole thing that we all know is garbage, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy, but I feel like the truth movement, the freedom movement, the liberty movement, the conspiracy culture, whatever, was a lot more awake 10 years ago. And then things like QAnon came along and Donald Trump and tricked people and misdirected people to all kinds of false paths and dead ends. And now it's like people don't even want to acknowledge these realities. Like I definitely just feel like so many people are really turning a blind eye to this shit, man. All right, so let's continue on. So I'm outlining how I went to the Bitcoin Nashville conference and how I'm seeing all these slimy people getting involved in the Bitcoin community. And at Bitcoin Nashville specifically, you had shirts like "Make Bitcoin Great Again." Like, things are starting to become synonymous with supporting Bitcoin means supporting Trump. And to some degree, I get it. Like, if you're just a normie and you're like, but look, the Biden administration, Kamala, they're very unfriendly to crypto. They've been going after crypto users. There have been some high-profile arrests of Samurai Wallet, Tornado Cash. Things like Local Monero have shut down out of fear. And people associate that with Biden. And so they think, of course, Trump is going to be the answer. And all Trump has to do is come to a Bitcoin conference. He doesn't even freaking understand Bitcoin or blockchain. It was so obvious from his speech. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But he just says, I'm gonna, invest billions of dollars into Bitcoin and all this kind of things, and everybody cheers, and that's it. Now, let me point out a few other things, because Bitcoin Magazine, which is the organizer of Bitcoin Nashville, which is one of the biggest crypto conferences in the world, or at least in the United States, Bitcoin Magazine CEO David Bailey, he stated that his goal is to raise $15 million for Trump campaign. And guess what? At the end of Bitcoin Nashville, he said they'd actually raise $21 million. So they raised $21 million from the crypto community in just like 3 days alone. And he said that the vast majority of these funds came from a combination of industry and whales/OGs. And whales is, of course, a term for people who've got a lot of crypto. So the CEO of Bitcoin Magazine is out there pumping Trump and saying, we're going to raise all this money for him. And by the way, and this hasn't been reported elsewhere, and I'll probably do an article later, but Whitney Webb's writing partner, Mark Godwin, he was the former editor at Bitcoin Magazine until just a few weeks ago. In fact, if you guys go back, look at Whitney's articles with Mark at unlimitedhangout.com, and you'll see in Mark's bio, it says former editor at Bitcoin Magazine. Now, nothing has been published. You can go to Bitcoin Magazine's website, and they still say he's the editor. No, there's been no press release issued, but I happen to know that he was let go, and that Bitcoin Magazine refused to publish an article from Whitney and Mark because it called out all this stuff. It called out the corruption within the community. Whitney was supposed to speak at Bitcoin Nashville, and so was Mark. And all of a sudden, they're no longer speaking. All of a sudden, Mark's the former editor of Bitcoin Magazine, and they chose not to publish one of Whitney's most recent article, not the latest one, but the one before that. If you go back a couple of weeks ago, that hasn't been reported anywhere else. And I've been talking to the two of them and saying, we need to get this out because people need to understand that Bitcoin Magazine is corrupted, especially because so many people support Whitney, and here Whitney and Mark are trying to expose certain things about the industry. And they're like, nah, sorry, we're not going to publish that because we're too deeply tied to those people. That's some important information. Somebody needs to get that out more. I'll probably write an article soon. Now, another person backing Donald Trump is Howard Lutnick. He was the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald. This guy pledged to give billions of dollars to Bitcoin. He's also invested in Rumble. This article goes deeper into the Rumble connection. I think I'm done with this one for now. But my point is you can kind of start to see that the Bitcoin community is now going all in on Trump. They're being told that this is some kind of populist movement. But in reality, the Trump people and the crypto people are tied to Palantir, tied to Peter Thiel, tied to the Bilderberg Group. There's multiple connections overlapping with Google's Eric Schmidt. And at the same time, the interesting thing is Google's Eric Schmidt, let's talk about him now. Who's he supporting? He's supporting Kamala Harris, right? So they make it seem like they're on opposing sides. And maybe they are to some degree. Maybe they don't like Trump. Maybe he prefers Kamala. But at the end of the day, Eric Schmidt, this little guy here with no chin on screen, he is a steering committee member of the Bilderberg Group as well. So think about that. If you guys understand the importance of the Bilderberg Group, they're funding Harris and Biden. They're funding Donald Trump. Do you think it's going to fucking matter who you choose? And I have people telling me, well, Derrick, there's going to be slight differences. You know, you can't deny that the Republicans are better on some issues. Sure, they are. But if you're honest, if you're really honest, you'll also admit that the Democrats are better on some issues. I know that's hard for some of you people to accept, but this is part of the psyop. They can both be good on one issue or this issue or that issue, and then they're totally freaking batshit crazy on other issues. And at the end of the day, they're both statists who want to use government to enforce their agendas over your lives, right? So getting into these debates about lesser of two evils and, well, things might be slightly better than Trump, or maybe the technocracy will march forward slowly. Look, I get it. If that's your strategy, go for it. But don't buy into this idea that they're going to save you. At the very least, if you're going to vote for Trump as a, let's say, a defensive vote because you think that's going to stop the agenda or make it at least a little bit slower, I think you're wrong. I think it's silly. But sure, do that. But also download How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State and start learning about exit and build strategy, learning about agorism and counter economics, and start getting out of these systems before it's too late, before the digital IDs come that we were just talking about. Otherwise, you're going to be dependent on these slavery systems like you probably were during COVID 1984 because you sat around all freaking day telling yourself that Donald Trump was going to save you or that Kamala Harris was going to save you. Meanwhile, they're all sitting out back, popping corks and drinking together, laughing at you because you don't realize that they're funded by the Zionists through people like Sheldon Adelson and his wife and the freaking Bilderberg Group. Okay. So, all right. In this article, I pointed out how Reid Hoffman, who is also connected to Epstein, he was a billionaire co-founder of LinkedIn. He wrote a piece for the New York Times just earlier this month saying, in this moment, we need a leader who recognizes the innovation is key to economic prosperity, national security, and breakthrough progress on climate change and other pressing issues. So he called for Silicon Valley to, quote, get behind Kamala Harris. And well, some of the people are listening. You know, again, we've got this Silicon Valley, the Peter Thiel, PayPal mafia on one side, they're going towards Trump. And then the other folks are going towards Harris, but you've got the obvious connections to the Bilderberg Group. Eric Schmidt, who, by the way, wrote a book called The Age of AI and Our Human Future with Henry Kissinger, who's the now deceased former Secretary of State and war criminal. That's the kind of company that Eric Schmidt keeps. And Eric Schmidt has been a longtime Democratic Party funder. He has donated to Republicans over the years, but most of the times he's donated to Democrats, including in 2020 and 2022. He donated millions of dollars to the Democratic Party. And he actually participated in a task force earlier this year that was specifically focused on how to help the Democrat establishment better understand how to win elections, specifically using AI, because this dude is a huge proponent of AI. And he, as I talked about earlier, remember, let's go back how we were talking about digital IDs a couple of moments ago. and these digital IDs rolling out, and how these IDs might be used to help you access the internet and proving your who you are. Well, look, Eric Schmidt, Bilderberg steering committee member, he was involved in an event at the Aspen Institute in April with Hillary Clinton, by the way, talking about the threats of artificial intelligence posing to elections. So they're kind of playing this up. AI is going to impact the election in the same way they're claiming Iran's going to hack the election. And interestingly, Eric Schmidt also sits on the board of something called the Institute for Global Politics, which was founded at Columbia University. And Hillary Clinton is currently the faculty advisory board chair. And if you understand the history of technocracy, it goes back to Columbia University. But you've also got this swampiness, hanging out with Kissinger, hanging out with Clinton, etc. And Eric Schmidt warned that the problem of election misinformation is only going to get worse, potentially even for this election. And he basically said that we need to use blockchain technology to track content creation in an attempt to stop fake news. And as I talked about earlier, look, crypto, blockchain, it's a tool. It can be used by the psychopaths, but it can also be used like Odyssey. I'm streaming on Odyssey right now. That's a blockchain-based platform. It's censorship-free. So it's important to understand that. But Eric Schmidt, before he attended this meeting with Hillary Clinton, he also wrote a piece I think it was October, for MIT. And it was about how to fight election misinformation. And he detailed a 6-point plan of how we can fight election misinformation. And one of the first things he said was, under a section called Verify Human Users, quote, we need to distinguish humans using social media from bots, holding both accountable if laws or policies are violated. And how do you think that's going to happen? Identify human users? Probably through these freaking digital driver's licenses or some form of digital IDs. That's the kind of stuff that Eric Schmidt is talking about. He's out there saying we need to support Harris and we need to protect the election from misinformation and we need to use AI to do it. He is also deeply, deeply tied into the Biden administration. He was the head of the U.S. National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence, also known as the AI Commission. And guess who appointed him as the chair? Donald Trump. He put him as the chair of the AI Commission in 2018. After it was created by Congress, and his chairship ended in the early 2021 in Joe Biden's administration, but he didn't go anywhere. After that, he deeply embedded himself into the Biden White House. Even though he's officially not in there, he's funding all kinds of startup companies, like one is known as Rebellion Defense. And this allows him to gain influence in the White House. In fact, I even found this 2021 report from the American Prospect, where they talked to different people within the White House that said that they sometimes, quote, jokingly call the Obama administration Google.gov, with more than 250 Google employees moving between government and the company throughout Obama's presidency. But it didn't stop with Obama. As I said, it continued under the Trump administration. It continues under the Biden administration. Eric Schmidt is also getting more and more deeply involved in the military intelligence complex. He's working with the Department of Defense, helping them upgrade their systems using artificial intelligence. He's working on drone programs. And like I said, the Project Maven, which was Google's project. You may remember a few years ago, Google employees walked out when they learned that Google was working to develop AI for drones that were going to be used by the military. Well, that was back in 2018. Nobody cares anymore. So they're still going forward with it. And it continues to operate. And guess who's funding it? Eric Schmidt and Peter Thiel. Wow, the connections just do not end. So this is the illusion of choice that we have been taught, my friends. Eric Schmidt over there on the Democrat side, steering committee member, friends with Peter Thiel. But we've got more. We've got more. Hold on, we're not done yet. The America's Frontier Fund. This is my latest article showing how these two jackasses are even more closely tied together. America's Frontier Firm, the venture capital firm with ties to Peter Thiel and Eric Schmidt. I really want you guys to read this article. I don't want to go through the whole thing. I'm starting to get hungry and dinner's waiting on me. But I do want to get into this because, like I said, this just shows you more and more the incestuous relationship. And I don't think anybody's even heard of the America's Frontier Fund, at least not in our community. They describe themselves as the first investment platform committed to ensuring the U.S. remains the best place in the world for frontier technology, innovation, and investment returns. And so they basically say they're getting together a world-class board of directors and investors, scientists, technologists, and policy experts dedicated to their pro-America vision. Where have we heard that before? And they started something called the Frontier Fund 1, which is all about funding groups, companies that they think can help their agenda to protect and project America's national security. Now, the interesting thing about this is they describe themselves as a for-profit investment fund housed within a nonprofit organization. And this allows them to leverage their assets of a for-profit business. So think about this. Technically, they're like a nonprofit. So that means they don't have to pay taxes, right? And people can donate to them. But at the same time, Peter Thiel and Eric Schmidt and these other big tech guys who are also invested in all kinds of other tech companies, they get to use this fund to then reinvest in other companies that they're also invested in. You know what I'm saying? It's like they're double dipping. They've created this organization and then they can take that money, redirect it. It's, you know, it's the same old thing that we've seen with these kinds of philanthropic outlets. But the bigger thing here is that they are actually working with the US government. So the idea is that they could take your money, taxpayer dollars, and then encourage the government. Oh, look, I think we should invest in this, this company over here. They look like they're doing great work, while Peter Thiel and Eric Schmidt are both invested in them and their friends are invested. You see what I'm saying? So at the very basic level, it's corruption, it's cronyism and things of that sort. The America's Frontier Fund is stacked with individuals with tied to the U.S. military, including Michelle Flournoy, former Undersecretary of Defense under Obama, former Secretary of Defense Ash Carter, and H.R. McMaster, who's the U.S. National Security Advisor at the Trump White House. So you got Obama officials and Trump officials from the military intelligence complex. And it goes on from there. As I said, they, at the moment, this was 2 years ago, they hadn't received any money from the government when they first started, but they had put in a request with the Department of Commerce about a semiconductor fund. You know, semiconductors, of course, chips, these are the basis for everything that we're doing and for their future world they want to run. So they're expecting taxpayer dollars, because remember this, anytime they say government funds, the government has no money. The government doesn't make anything. They don't build anything. They steal from your pockets, and then they take it and give it to people like Peter Thiel and Eric Schmidt to build a freaking AI military industrial complex thing that they claim is going to help America keep American national security and all this kind of stuff. And then when you look at the board members, the people associated with the American Frontier Fund, again, both Eric Schmidt and Peter Thiel donated to the nonprofit that's part of this organization. Even though they're not on the board of directors, when you start looking at the people involved, you can see that this is their whole crew. So a guy named Jordan Blaychek is the president and CEO of America's Frontier Fund. He was previously vice president at Eric Schmidt's Schmidt Futures, which is a philanthropic outfit he created with his wife. Eric Braverman is on the board of directors, and until 2023, he was also the CEO at Schmidt Futures. He also formerly worked at the Clinton Foundation. And I mean, the shit just goes on and on. But there's even more scary connections here. In-Q-Tel. Those of you who know, you know. The In-Q-Tel is the CIA's venture capital firm. This is when the CIA says, hey, we want to invest in different companies, again, using taxpayer dollars or money that they've stolen from overthrowing other governments from other taxpayers in other parts of the world. They can go invest in companies. And as we know, the CIA invested in a company called Keyhole Inc. back in the day. And Keyhole Inc., what did they become? Google Earth, right? So a lot of times the CIA will invest in big companies or startup companies, and they'll give them their technology, and then all of a sudden it becomes something great. Like there's definitely some theories and some tangential evidence that the Department of Defense program known as LifeLog essentially became Facebook. And then we know that, again, Google Earth came from money from the CIA. Now, Eric Schmidt, he has a very close relationship with the In-Q-Tel. He's an investor and a chair of the company called Sandbox AQ, which is an AI company that received backing from In-Q-Tel in 2022. Said that Sandbox AQ would help sell its technology to the U.S. government. So there's just this back and forth of your money going from criminals and psychopaths to AI, big tech, military industrial complex. Peter Thiel's own company, Palantir Technologies, which is a private surveillance firm, they received 2 rounds of investment from In-Q-Tel, from the CIA, which were worth more than $2 million at the beginning. And according to a 2016 report by the Wall Street Journal, numerous individuals working for In-Q-Tel also have financial investments in the companies that are getting backed by the CIA. So I think I'm making my point here. I could go on showing you that Gilman Louis, who was previously the head of In-Q-Tel, he was also one of the 15 commissioners in the AI commission with Eric Schmidt. He's working closely with Eric Schmidt on the America's Frontier Fund. As I said, Eric Schmidt has influenced the Obama, Trump, and Biden administrations. And now they're focusing on going international. I mean, this article covers more and more, but let me just wrap up with this final part here. I wrote, with technocrats like Eric Schmidt, Peter Thiel, and Gilman Louie involved in the funding and steering of America's fund, it is likely that the fund will be a tool to expand the interest of the U.S. military and intelligence networks. Armed with billions of dollars of taxpayer money, extensive connections to the aforementioned networks, and a technocratic worldview, we should expect to see the influence of the America's Frontier Fund for years to come. Unfortunately, the average American is too distracted and too divided to grapple with the reality that individuals with ties to the hidden predator class are, at a minimum, playing a role in the U.S. government's technological and military strategies. Now, I really highly encourage you to read these articles. America's Frontier Fund, the venture capital firm with ties to Peter Thiel and Eric Schmidt. What role will Eric Schmidt play in election 2024? The co-opting of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Nashville, Peter Thiel, Donald Trump, and Rumble. I'm outlining a pretty big picture, and I know that this can maybe be overwhelming for some people or hard to understand, but it is important for you to dive into this. I'm going to take a quick breather. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and continue the conversation about what can we do about it? What are the solutions? Then we're going to get to the segment as we start to wrap up of what's Derrick reading. We're going to play a conscious music video. Guys, I really, really appreciate you being here. Whatever platform you're on, please give me some thumbs up, some hearts, some flames, some likes, some shares, subscription, whatever you got. Send it my way. Keep boosting the signal, guys. I couldn't do this without you. I really appreciate you. We'll be right back. So I've recently partnered with my friend Sean Hawkins of the company Cultivated Mind. He focuses on organic mushroom extracts, which are designed to help you physically, mentally, and maybe even more than that. I've just been testing them out recently. You may have seen my interview with Sean discussing this. We went over some of the specific benefits of the various types of mushrooms that Sean uses. I think it's a really exciting product to be a part of because not only are they organic, they're non-GMO, but if you know anything about mushrooms, as more and more of us have been learning about the benefits of mushrooms, not just psychedelic mushrooms, but all types of mushrooms, then you understand that they are a great boon to your health. So Sean recently hooked me up and I've been trying the Brain Squared, which is for gut pea flower extract, ashwagandha. I also recently picked up the Radiant Energy, which is for pre and post workout. So I go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week and now starting to take these before and after. These feature cordyceps, reishi, and chaga. And finally, he's got Immune Renew, which is obviously for immunity. This one features chaga, turkey tail, reishi, maitake, shiitake, and extract of nattokinase. I encourage you to go visit the website. It is cultivated-mind.com. And of course, we have a special deal and a discount for those of you who want to purchase them through my link at cultivated-mind.com/cm/broze, BROZE. You can check out the link on the screen right now or wherever you're watching. Check out the link below the video. All right, welcome back. Okay, let's go ahead and read some comments before we continue on. This one here, somebody said, hopefully we wrap back up on the message about Trump, RFK, Thiel, and Musk, or am I confused? I don't know how you're confused because I just outlined all the connections between Peter Thiel and Donald Trump. And obviously, RFK is endorsing him. He's supporting him. So just by proxy, he's supporting these same issues. And let me go pull up my whole link on Sheldon Adelson, the Adelsons, and how Trump is being funded by these Israelis. Here, let me see. Adelson. I got it somewhere on my Telegram channel. Here we go. And also, as I pointed out earlier, if you weren't here, if you got in late, I showed you how RFK went on an apology tour for the Zionists whenever they accused him of being anti-Semitic. They're all in this together. RFK seems to be either ignorant or blind about the connections in the Bitcoin community that I outlined earlier. The fact that he is supporting Trump when he claimed to be fighting against the COVID shots, and Trump still won't say he was wrong about the vaccine. And so many people, I realized today, still don't, they make excuses for Trump. Trump launched Operation Warp Speed. Yes, it was a military project, but who put Moncef Slaoui at the head of it? Big pharma exec, Donald Trump did. And who gave Anthony Fauci an award on his last day in office? Donald Trump did. So if you're telling me Trump was, awake that whole time, but he turned around and gave Fauci an award, I think people are being ignorant. So it's a big swamp. And Musk, I don't think there's anything I could even say that's going to make people wake up to that, because the freaking fanboy stuff around Musk is off the charts. But let's start with this. His whole Starlink thing, he's participating and allowing the Ukraine-Russia war to continue by using Starlink. You can go back to him when he said, we'll coup whoever we want, because his whole projects, like the batteries he needs for his Tesla cars, they depend on lithium. And in Bolivia and other South American countries, they have lithium deposits. He doesn't care about that. He also is literally pushing the transhumanist agenda with freaking brain chips, and he's a transhumanist. Now, I have friends who are anarchists who are also transhumanists. They believe in a voluntary fashion, but they're not billionaires who are claiming to be about free speech while at the same time censoring people on Twitter. So this is, again, part of that great inversion that I talk about, this fake awakening, where so many people are like, yeah, we're sticking it to the libs. We got Twitter now, and we got Rumble. I didn't even really get into the Rumble connections in my previous article on Bitcoin, but they're there. There's a lot of shady people, all the people I mentioned, Howard Lutnick of Cantor Fitzgerald, Peter Thiel, et cetera, who are funding Rumble. And Rumble might be a free speech platform right now, but I wouldn't trust it in the long term. And this is what I call the great inversion. I would include people like not only Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Tucker Carlson. If you don't know about Tucker Carlson, because so many people still have a blind spot for him, you need to go back and look at his father's connections. Look at his, allegedly, he tried out for the CIA, but he didn't make it. Allegedly, he just, he failed. So the connections are pretty prevalent. This is my article, What is the Great Inversion? Again, I encourage you to check it out if you're not familiar with it. If you haven't seen it, it's at theconsciousresistance.com. I get that some of you aren't going to buy into it. You aren't going to believe it. But if you're paying attention and you see what these people are, you judge them by their actions, not by their silly fucking words and the things they pretend to be, then you can see who they are. This is part of the false light. The obvious darkness is the Democrat progressive craziness. And now we're moving into this false light, this false awakening, what I call the great inversion. That is what's happening. And RFK Jr. is apparently a part of it now. He, as I said earlier, built up all this attention about he's going to fight the deep state. He's going to, he calling out Trump. Trump was talking shit about him. But now all of a sudden we put all that aside because of politics, right? And then I get people lecturing me about, Derrick, you can't be idealistic forever. You and your silly principles. Oh my God. I think I'm okay. I'm okay sticking with my principles, even if it's just me and a few other people. I'd rather that than be a freaking sellout, selling people hopium because it makes you money off clicks and things like that. That's what a lot of the mainstream alternative media is about. So when you put together Donald Trump and his funding of Peter Thiel, which is coming, he's a Bilderberg steering committee member. And on the opposing side, you've got Kamala Harris, who's also a Bilderberg steering committee member, being supported by a Bilderberg steering committee member in the form of Eric Schmidt, as I just mentioned. Not to mention Alex Karp. He's another one, Alex Karp, who's also the co-founder of Palantir. He did an interview with the New York Times recently, and he said he's putting his support behind Kamala. Guess what? He's also a steering committee member of the Bilderberg Group. So you got two Bilderberg steering committee members on one side and others on the other side. Everybody's got shady connections going to the intelligence networks, collaborating with them. And at the most base level, if you don't want to believe there's a larger conspiracy, at the most base level, you can say these are rich people who are trying to get rich, and they're just investing in people that they think are going to help further their business interests. That still is not a good thing because they don't have our interests at heart. But we're being sold is this idea that the health freedom movement is waking up. We're finally going to win. The libertarians are uniting with the health freedom people, with the old school liberals, with the former Democrats and MAGA, and we're finally going to take them down. Meanwhile, look at this article here from New York Times. This is from, what was this? This was earlier this year, I believe. Yeah, June 2024. The pro-Israel donor with a $100 billion plan to elect Trump. Miriam Adelson long operated in the shadow of her powerful husband, Sheldon Adelson. Now, after his death, she is playing in politics as a solo practitioner for the first time. Yep, she's back, and I guarantee if somebody looks into this, whatever she's got around her neck, it's probably a freaking secret society. Oh, she's receiving the Presidential Medal of Freedom from 2018 from Trump. So Trump gave her the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Her husband, Sheldon Adelson, the big Zionist donors. These are the kind of people that are putting their money behind Trump. They're also putting their money into RFK. They're also putting their money behind Kamala. So you tell me how you're going to get something different by voting for people who are literally being funded by the same party. You tell me that that's the awakening, that we're finally winning, we're defeating the deep state, when the literal fucking deep state is funding them. Do you get that? Do you fucking understand? Go to thepyramidofpower.net. Watch all 14 episodes. Stay tuned for the last couple if you're not getting it yet, because we're going to show you who's at the top of the pyramid. And guess what? Not all the way at the top, but up there high, you see the Bilderberg Group. You see the Zionist lobby. Israel was created by the Rothschild family, funded by them. That whole fucking movement, which is allowing people to turn a blind eye to genocide, to death, to killing of people. No, it doesn't justify anything from Hamas or anything like that. And before somebody says that, but you are making excuses that you are allowing this system and these people to dehumanize you by participating in it, by supporting in it, and by making all the fucking excuses I've been hearing for the last 3 days every time I try to reach somebody. And it's worth it. It's worth it to put the time and energy. It's worth it for me to feel frustrated if even one single person wakes up to this and realizes I've been led astray. I'm not going to play the game anymore. I'm going to reject this false two-party illusion that I've been told. I'm going to take my power back into my own hands. I'm going to take care of my family, my friends, and my community. I'm going to reject the lies that they're telling us. And I'm going to reclaim my true innate power, because this is the truth, my friends, that they don't want you to know. Here's the big secret. You were created and brought here for a reason. You are made up of the stars and the sun and the moon and the trees and the dirt and the soil. We had life breathed into us to be here at this very moment, because we are so much more powerful than they want us to believe. They want you to let go of your own power, to subject yourself to their false system. That's not saying that these problems don't exist. Yes, there's a crisis at the border. Yes, there's war going on, but the people they're selling you are not going to fix it. And even if they chip away at a little piece and they throw you a little scrap from the dinner table to make you feel like you got something out of it, they're still keeping you trapped in this illusion, the false dichotomy. This is why every time I talk to a grown adult and I point out something about Trump, they say, oh, so you're going to vote for Kamala? Oh, you want Biden? Because that's the level of fucking thinking they've reduced us to. People can't focus. They can't even get beyond this. Oh, it must be this thing. So somebody doesn't like this. They don't like strawberry ice cream. They must like chocolate. There's no other choice in the world, right? That's the freaking level they want us to be at. They want us to sink down to their level, to be incapable of thinking as a human being, incapable of saying, you know what? I might identify with this quote unquote side of things, but that's still fucked up. That's still fucked up if kids are dying and Trump supporting that. So you know what? I might like what Trump did, or I might like this one thing, or I'm glad he's sticking it to the libs and talking shit to the media, but I can't stomach knowing that he is going to allow war to continue. And even if that means I have to sit out of this race for this one time. And that's not me selling you no solution. Again, as I said earlier, I've been being told I'm black-pilled. I'm negative, guys, for telling you the truth about these people. That is not the truth. This is actually a white pill. If you're willing to swallow it all the way down and let it get up into your little brain, the moment you realize that these people are not coming to save you, I know that that can be disheartening. It can be hard to accept sometime. And in our silly little brains, we don't want to accept things that make our worldview feel a little shaky. Oh, I'm not sure. I feel unstable now. If Trump's not coming to save me, then things are really screwed. I've heard a lot of people say that. If Q's not real, then we're really screwed. But at the end of the day, my friends, you are the answer. You. And I'm not just being silly, whatever. That's the truth. You, me, us, together, we are the real fucking solution. That is the white pill, that once you let go of the idea that politicians and the military-industrial complex and some 5D QAnon psyop is coming to save you. And I know this is hard for some people, but I would say even religion is going to come save you. Once you let go of that idea, believe what you want. But once you understand that you have to take responsibility for your life, because the Creator didn't say sit around and wait and do nothing and one day I'll come save you. The Creator gave you skills, a brain, mind, and free will to act and to stand up for injustice. And once you let go of this idea that these politicians aren't going to come save you, that's the real white pill. That's the ability to say, wow, you know what? That's amazing. That means I have to take responsibility for my own life. And that's scary for some people, especially if you've been used to other people doing things for you. We got a lot of adult children walking around who don't know how to take care of themselves. But when you accept that you are in charge of your life, my friends, it is such a freeing feeling. It is not negative. It is not black-pilled. It is the truth of the matter that you have to step up. And I get it. I hear from all kinds of people. I heard from a guy this week who said, Derrick, I'm 80 years old. I only make $800 off Social Security. I can't afford land. What am I going to do? And I don't claim to have the perfect solution. That's a tough situation to be in. But I know community is the key. Community is answer. If you can't go out and grow your own food, work with other people at a community garden. If you can't afford land on your own, I can't afford land on my own. I'm working with other people for the land that we now have. That didn't come from Derrick Broze being rich. That came from my dedication, my energy, my persistence, and my determination to make it happen and to work with other people. Lots of meetings and planning and thinking. That's the kind of shit that it takes. It's not just, oh, press a button once every 4 years and my problems are solved. That's the lie that you've been sold. So no, my friends, accepting that politicians are not going to save you is not a black pill. It is a white pill. It is the true white pill, because then from that moment, the responsibility is on you. And I know that's hard for some of us, but it's also a very freeing thing to recognize that the power is in your hands. And it always has been. The lie that they have told us is that we are not power. Say it with me. Say it with me. Wherever you're at, wherever, if you're sitting in the middle of a restaurant, if you're sitting on the toilet, say this with me. We are power. Say it again. We are power. We are the true power. There's no other power than what we possess, and we come from the divine, from the creation. We are a representation of that ultimate power. They are the opposite. You can call them evil, you can call them satanic, you can call them what they want. All I know is that they are the opposite of what we truly have the capability of being. And they're sucking so many of us into it and getting us to participate by making excuses for Robert F. Kennedy Jr., for making excuses for Donald Trump, by making excuses for Elon Musk and ignoring the Peter Thiel connection, ignoring the Eric Schmidt connection, ignoring the Zionist connection, and just making excuses. That's all I hear from people is excuses. Not everybody, but a lot of you. And even the ones who say, I hear you, Derrick, you're right about this, but what am I going to do? And that's where we're going to wrap up. What can you do, right? What can we do? Well, for me, what I talk about is what I call exit and build. And as I mentioned earlier, this is discussed in my book, The How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State, which you can download for free at theconsciousresistance.com/how-to. You can buy it on all major book publishers. Please buy it anywhere other than Amazon and download it for free. Listen to the audiobook. Also, go to theconsciousresistance.com. I literally give dozens of presentations. I get invited to speak all around the world. I've spoke in Costa Rica so far. I've spoken in Mexico. I've spoken in Texas. I'm going to go to the UK in a few weeks. I'm going to be speaking in Denmark. I put this information out there. So for anybody to claim that I'm negative or I have no solutions, they're just not fucking paying attention. Here's one I put together that I think is one of the most simple explanations of it. It's from November 2022. So this was actually right before I republished the second version of this book, but it'll give you everything you know to get started and hopefully go further. It's called Exit and Build, Creating the 2030 of Your Dreams. I will link this below, but all you need to go is theconsciousresistance.com. And as I've told you guys plenty of times before, we have this website because I know I've produced a lot of content over the last 13 years. Look at presentations. Click on this category for presentations, or you can go to anarchism or gorism. But right here, presentations. Look at this. These are all the talks, all the public speeches I've given since 2013. My first talk ever, April 2013 in New York City. There's 4 pages of presentations on here. Every single one is solutions focused. And I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass. I'm talking about real solutions based on my own experience, living without banks, not talking to government, buying land, learning how to grow my own food, getting a permaculture certification. I'm actually living these things. I'm not just talking about them. I'm actually living and breathing the solutions that I talk about. So don't take it from people who just tell you, oh, just trust Trump and everything will be better. They can't promise you that. What I can promise you is that if you were to learn about exit and build, if you were to download or read How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State or listen to the audiobook, and if you actually incorporated the ideas in your life, then your life will change for the better. You have 2 months to the election. 2 months. Imagine this, my friends. If you hear this message, any single being out there who hears my voice, for the next 60 days, put your energy into what you can do in your life. Go ahead and vote November 5th or whatever it is if you still want to vote. But spend the next 60 days. You've got the last week of August, you've got September, you got October. So you got 60 days plus, probably 70 days. Put your energy into learning how to grow your own food. Put a potted plant up in the window with some basil. Take care of that for 60 days, and you'll have a better result than if you go and vote for lying politicians. But take it to the next level. Start seeing about getting off of big tech and maybe look into the above phone. Start looking at getting off Microsoft and using Linux. Start focusing on self-defense. Start learning more about alternative currencies, whether that's Monero, whether that's gold backs, things like that. There are so many practical solutions that you can do, and they don't all take a lot of money. I get that land takes money. You can switch from using Google right now. You can get off Microsoft browsers and all that right now. You can go to nomoregoogle.com. You can go to privacytools.io. You can go to takebackourtech.org. You can read my book. You can listen to the presentations where I outline the solutions that I think will actually help and empower us. Or you can just keep trying the same old shit. You can keep doing it. And like I said, do that. If you want to vote, I think you're misguided, but vote. That's fine. But don't only vote. If you're going to vote, focus on what's going on in your own local community, the school board, city council, etc. I tried that. I ran for mayor and I found out how corrupt it is even on that level. But at that point, at least you can reach people in your local area instead of focusing on what's going on nationally. Not to say it doesn't matter, but for the good of everyone, focus on yourself. If each of us do that, this is the whole voluntarist philosophy. We believe that real change comes not from violence, not from the bullet box, and not from the ballot box with voting, but by each of us focusing on our own lives and our own energy and putting the best foot forward and showing the world what an empowered human looks like, and doing it by taking this holistic perspective, looking at your finances, looking at your food, how you make your money, where you spend your money, where you get your food from. Is it clean? Is it organic? Can you grow it your own, or can you at least get closer to the growers who are growing it in your area? Getting off big tech where you can. There's so many other areas. Again, I explore this in numerous presentations at theconsciousresistance.com in how to opt out of the technocratic state. And even if you want to, if you're those of you who are more spiritually and open-minded, I encourage you to check out the Conscious Resistance trilogy. You can also get that at my website as well. So I have solutions. I'm not the only one that does have solutions, but you might have noticed a lot of people out there who are also journalists, they don't also focus on solutions. There's nothing wrong with that. Being a journalist isn't inherently about solutions. But for me, I don't want to just tell you the problems and report on, investigations, which are interesting and important. But I want to also say, guys, there are real solutions. I don't want to tell you to go vote for a known liar, a criminal, and a thief. And for those of you who still can't handle it, yes, Donald Trump is a criminal. No, I'm not talking about the stuff that they said. But there are real crimes that Donald Trump's been involved with. He's been connected to the Rothschild since the 90s. He's got a decades-long relationship with Epstein that some of you are still in denial about. He's funded and supported by the Zionists, and on and on and on. The point is, there are better solutions than putting your life in their hands. And even if after everything I said, you're still going to go vote for Kamala, you're still going to go vote for Biden, or even you're going to vote for third party, at least the third party folks are sticking with their principles. I respect that, even though you're voting in a rigged system and trying to get government to force your agenda on other people is immoral. Nevertheless, at least you're sticking to your principles. Even if you're going to do that, I encourage you to learn more about exit and build strategy. Wherever you're watching, if you're watching on YouTube, my friends, like I've been saying, you missed my work for 4 years, so you got a lot to catch up on. Theconsciousresistance.com is always the best place to get all my content, because no matter where I get deleted from, banned from, shadow banned, censored, I'm never going to stop producing content. I'm never going to stop focusing on solutions. I'm never going to stop trying to empower and activate people, because as I've been telling you guys, it's not enough to be awake anymore. We need to be activated. We need to be actively working on solutions. Otherwise, the most awake person in the world can still get marched right into the FEMA camp if they never did anything to prepare for the coming digital identities, for the coming eugenics agenda. That's what I'm about. My prayer, my wish is that if I can save anybody, and I don't even, again, mean that my ego, myself is going to save people. You're going to save yourself. But if I can inspire people to actually take their lives into their own hands, then all of this effort will be worth it. I know we're not going to help everybody. I know that the masses are going to go down. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people will die when this eugenics agenda rolls out. I mean, we're just weeks away from the Summit of the Future in New York City, and still the masses of people have no freaking idea about it. And I've been trying to scream from the rooftops, next month, the UN's going to sign the Pact for the Future, and they're likely going to declare a planetary emergency. And instead, people are paying attention to freaking election politics, the whole left-right party paradigm. I haven't heard Donald Trump mention the Summit of the Future. I haven't heard RFK Jr. mention the Summit of the Future, Peter Thiel, Musk, or any of these other folks. They're not telling you about it. There are bigger issues than the election. Yes, I understand that. But so many good people are being swept up in the hysteria again. And it honestly hurts me, and it makes me sad to see it happen. So, all right, guys, we're going to wrap up here. I just want to say we're going to do our segment, What's Derrick Reading? And I like to pick a book from my library. This week, we're going to talk about a book. This is just a brief segment for those of you who don't know. I just share some of my books, and we're going to close out with a music video. This one's called The Smoky God. Let's see if we can get that in focus. The Smoky God by Willis George Emerson. As you can see, this is like a really thin little book here. And this book was published in 1908. I'm going to do a deeper dive on some of this stuff soon because I'm not a flat earther personally. And I know some of you are like, oh my God, Derrick, everything's flat. Why can't you see it? I'm more interested in things like hollow earth theory and that idea. It's just interesting to me. I'm not saying it's 100% fact, but as I was going down that rabbit hole, and I've got a few other books about hollow earth theory, this book is really freaking interesting. Again, it's by a dude named Willis George Emerson, and I need to do more research on it, but I started reading it the other day. And basically what he claims is that in 1905, he met this dude, I think he's Danish or he's from Norway, a Norwegian guy named Olaf Janssen, who was an old dude who was 95 when he met him. So he had lived through the 1800s, and he was from Norway, and he had traveled around Europe, and he lived in the Middle East and Africa and different places. And he ends up settling in California. And the author, Willis George Emerson, meets this old man through some kind of weird, strange circumstances. And he's there on his deathbed. And the man says, look, I'm not going to live through the night. And I want to share my secrets of what I've witnessed to you. And I need you to share it with the world. And so the old man shared his secrets, and the guy, like, he took his story, he wrote it down. The old man, this Norwegian guy, also claimed he had maps and things of that sort. And essentially what he's claiming, it does line up in some ways with the flat earthers a little bit, and with those of us who know that there's something shady going on over in Antarctica. But the theory is that if you go up to the Arctic and the North Pole, once you get past the ice, that there's actually, these really beautiful lands, and it's like a temperate climate. He kind of described it like being in the Mediterranean or in the UK sometimes. But then they claim that it goes down into the earth. And what his theory, again, I haven't read the whole book yet, but his theory, what this old man claimed on his deathbed, was that is the origin of humanity, that we come from inside the earth, that there is this Garden of Eden inside there where there's rivers, that there's just all kinds of lush forests and things like that. And allegedly that the so-called elite, the predator class, that they are still living in the hollow earth in the center, and they're kind of manipulating, controlling things from within there. Again, I haven't dove in completely. I've got, let me see if I can find it. I don't know where it's at right now, but I've got another book about the hollow earth as well, some different things. But yeah, has anybody ever heard of this book, The Smoky God? I found it in my research one day, and I decided I needed to learn more about it. And yeah, it's just interesting. So what do you guys think? Have you ever researched the hollow earth? I know some of you are flat earthers or whatever. I think hollow earth is a little more interesting to me. I'm not saying I know it's true. I don't know the science behind it, and if that's even possible, whatever. I'm sure people will say it's not. I find it interesting. I still do like going down random rabbit holes like that and just doing a deep dive. So I will be coming at you with some reports soon, because I like to explore the paranormal and the esoteric and the spiritual. We don't always talk politics here on the show. We try to mix it up with spirituality, conspirituality, esoteric conspiracies, things of that sort, as well as debunking political garbage and nonsense. So thank you guys for being here tonight. I'm going to hit a couple comments before I say good night, because it's getting late and I got some dinner going down there. Let me see. Oh, Agartha and Shambhala. Exactly, dude. That's what you're talking about. Agartha. I have that book somewhere here. I can't find it, but I have a whole book about this idea of Agartha. That was another belief in this idea of there being a hollow earth. Rika, you haven't heard of it, but I do like hollow earth. Cool. Check it out. And then we got this person, Apocalypsis Historia, plenty of myths of indigenous people coming from under the earth after a cataclysm. Absolutely. And a lot of our indigenous communities, especially shamanic communities, we talk about like spiritually, but I think there is also underworld and, going into the underworld. And some people say that's only spiritually, like they're speaking more metaphorically. I think there might be real. So then Eerie Fairy, how funny. One of the books I'm reading right now is Journey to the Center of the Earth by Jules Verne. Yeah, see, I'm saying there's been some references in the past, not saying it's 100% true, but it's definitely interesting. Ever listening to Archaics? And yeah, I do know who Archaics is. We haven't crossed each other's paths. I know a lot of people who really, really swear by his work. I'm definitely interested in it. Damn, bros, spitting facts. Thank you guys. I know I get just like, I kind of feel like I get possessed for a minute, and I know somebody's going to take that clip now and say I'm possessed by demons, but I just sort of, the creator speaks through me, and however you interpret that, however you want, but I just listen and I share the words that I believe are meant to be heard. We are power. Let's say it again. We are power. Yeah. All right. Technocratic dystopia awaits the unwary and ignorant. I totally agree. Always excellent discussion. I have a permaculture PDC too. Love your presentation at MIT. I forgot about that. Yeah, I got to, for those on YouTube who didn't know, I got invited to speak at MIT last year by a student group, and I got to speak. That's also available at theconsciousresistance.com. Thank you guys for recognizing that I give solutions. There's a lot of comments here, so I'm going to just go ahead and wrap it up. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for really tuning in. You know, I'll just say this as just kind of on a personal note as I wrap up. I've been doing this for 14 years, and I don't have the biggest platform ever. You know, I've got 60-something thousand on YouTube. I've got a 20,000 person email list. I got 40-something thousand followers on Twitter, and some others on Facebook and Telegram and blah, blah, whatever. But I don't have the hundreds of thousands and millions of some other people. But I know that I'm genuine. I know that I do my best to be objective and to be honest, and I bring solutions. And all of you who've been following me on this journey, it means so much. I promise you, I'm going up. I'm not done growing. But the problem is, as I grow, like right now, I'm staring on a list I made. I've never shared this publicly, but I'll share this with you guys. I have a list that I made at the beginning of 2024. It says the path to 100,000 plus subscribers. And my goal was this year to get any one of my platforms to 100,000. I've already got way beyond that when you combine everything. My YouTube channel has reached 5 million plus views. My documentaries like Jeffrey Epstein and others have reached millions of people. But I wanted to have at least one of my platforms at 100K. And so I have a list of different names of podcasts and people that I wanted to connect with. And honestly, I've been able to check off some of them. The Highwire, Kim Iverson, Redacted News, What Bitcoin Did. And then there's others that are, you know, maybe a little far away, like Joe Rogan. Again, it doesn't mean I trust these people, but I want to speak to the millions to bring them solutions. But one of the things that Ryan and I have talked about, Ryan of T-Lab, is you start to hit what feels like a ceiling where if you don't conform to the Trump narrative at the moment, then those doors start to close for you. Like, I'll be real. The last couple of weeks, I've been talking with Jimmy Dore's managers, schedulers. They've been talking about maybe bringing me on, but then everything went silent the last couple of weeks. They asked me to send them some of my interviews, send them some of my work. The same thing. I met Russell Brand in Nashville. I told him about my work. He gave me his email. I emailed him. He responded right away. I've been talking to his managers, his schedulers. It's been back and forth, back and forth. And I'm trying not to be a pest, but also I'm persistent because that's how I've succeeded. But I can't help but wonder if I'm not getting callbacks and I'm not getting invited to some of these bigger podcasts because I'm not conforming to the narrative. And if that's so, if that's my fate, so be it. I'd rather do that than sell out just to get the numbers, just to get the clicks. Because I can go on some of these platforms that I don't agree with and talk about fluoride and talk about other things. Like I said, I'm going to be on InfoWars tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central. Obviously, I don't trust Alex Jones and I don't like a lot of things he's done. But do I want my message to get to millions of people? Of course I do. Of course I do. I want to reach these people and bring them into the fold and help them find real solutions. But I realistically think that my name is shadow banned, that my work is shadow banned a lot of places, and that people like me and Ryan and a few others have been, you know, not to say people like Whitney who get on bigger platforms are somehow controlled opposition, because Whitney's even getting pushback now that she's really, really calling out the Peter Thiel Trump thing. And that's why we're going to form this alliance. But I just wanted to personalize this, guys. Like, I work night and day. This is my life. This is not a hobby. I'm a full-time journalist, 7 days a week. I work on this probably too much to the detriment of my health and my relationship, but I do find a good balance. I go on walks. I go on bike rides. I try to find time to connect to the divine, to give thanks to the creator for everything that I have. But I'm not done by any means, guys. I am trying to get to 1 million plus people on any platform. I want to speak to millions of people. I want to help them see real solutions. And you can help me do that. If you keep spreading my work, if you keep spreading the message, and those of you who can afford, if you invest on a monthly basis, go to theconsciousresistance.com/invest. You can see my buy me a coffee, my Substack, my crypto addresses. You can see my PO box. Send me some cash in the mail, send me love mail, send me hate mail. The point is, with your help, I will keep reaching new audiences and hopefully waking up those audiences. So we'll see. Maybe I'll get on Russell Brand's show and I'll get to drop some real truth bombs and some solutions bombs. Maybe Jimmy Dore's manager will actually, you know, put me on. But as the days and weeks go on, I'm really starting to doubt it. And that's fine. If that's where I'm going to be, I would rather grow organically by sticking to my principles than having to sell out to this fake mainstream alternative media just to get the clicks and the views and the numbers, because that's never what I've been about. I'm about truth. I'm about helping people heal their trauma so that we can collectively build a better world. And that involves fighting the external tyrants and waking people up and removing yourself from those systems. But most importantly, it also involves the internal tyrant, working through your own doubts, fears, and insecurities so that you can be one more healed human. And I'm telling you, friends, if you focus on that, they cannot manipulate you. They cannot play on your insecurities and your doubts and fears and work you against each other because you're too fucking strong for them mentally, physically, and spiritually. And that's what I'm focused on. That's what the ConsciousResistance.com is all about. Guys, I appreciate you so much. It really, from the bottom of my heart, I really mean it. Thank you so much for the support. And we're going to close out with a conscious song. This is actually going to be another one of my songs. This is a throwback to an old song I haven't shared in a while, but you guys heard me saying the We Are Power thing, We Are Power. That comes from one of my greatest influences, John Trudell, who is a Native American activist who died in 2015. I got really close to interviewing him, and his words have influenced me so much. And you're going to hear him in this song. This is my song. It's called Reflection. For those who don't know, I perform music under the name 33, 33ishere.com. Don't freak out. I'm not a Freemason, but you can think whatever you like. Listen to the words, soak them in, listen to the message. This is one of my oldest songs, so I think my skills have improved, but it's still one of my favorite ones. But listen to the voiceover. That's John Trudell's words, and he is where I got this message of We Are Power. So thank you guys for being here tonight. As always, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free, my friends, and they can't stop us. Peace.
We have to reestablish our identity. We have to understand who we are and where we fit in the natural order of the world.
33.
The people who have created this system and they perpetuate this system, they are out of balance. They have made us out of balance.
I woke up this morning feeling I had something to say. I got doubts on my mind, it's time to let them fly away. It's time to unlearn poison and heal broken hearts. Go back to the end, it's time for a fresh start. This is the place we can atone for our sins. This is the place where our hero's journey begins. A space between love and hate, where there's no escape from our fate. Rather than be irate, let's create, let's build the better world we know is possible. I've got no fear, cause we can overcome any obstacle. I stare all my demons in the face, I'll show you what's possible. I send love from my heart, I'm intuitive, not illogical. It's just that lately I've been searching for deeper meaning. I'm sick of drugs, booze, mindless sex, and criminal scheming. Feels like I should have more at this point in time. I'm talking knowledge, not money, I'm trying to feed my mind.
See, we are power. They deal in violence and repression. We are power. They tell us, they want us to believe that we are powerless.
I hope you hear these words from my mind, from my heart to your ears. We only got one life. Let's do something with it. Open up all three of my eyes and fly to the heavens. During my meditation, I see my life in chapters of 7. I connect to my inner child to heal my wounds. I recall those I've lost to dope gone too soon. My life flashes before me, a collage of joy and pain. I recall the highs, the lows, I swear I'm going insane. I'm trying to wrap my mind around this journey. Spent too much time worried about things that don't concern me. No more time wasted, not chasing my dreams. I wake up every day knowing this world ain't what it seems. We gotta make our own path, we gotta find our own meaning, cause we can't be sure, we might be dreaming. All I know is, when I look in your eyes, I see myself. I'm just a reflection of your impression of my higher self. Could it be that our whole reason for being, our existence, is a lesson to teach us over and over until we get this? You are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Shake off your chains, you were blind, but now you see. Grandfather, help us remember where we come from. Grandmother, walk with us until this battle is won.
Part of the earth, we are an extension of that natural energy which is spirit and which is power. That is natural power. And just as it takes millions and billions of elements to make a blizzard to happen, or to make the earthquake, to make the earth to move, then it's going to take millions and billions of us. We are power. We have that power.
You are powerful, you are beautiful, you are free. Since 2012, the Conscious Resistance Network has been an independent media organization focused on empowering individuals through education, philosophy, health, and community organizing. We work to create a world where corporate and state power do not rule over the lives of free human beings. Our motto is leading by example and helping others in their pursuit of freedom. Visit theconsciousresistance.com to find our articles, documentaries, interviews, podcasts, books, and more. Remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free.